How you going, people? All right, continuing coverage on the Kenosha kid, the Rittenhouse trial. Again, I'm playing this at 1.5 speed. If you want to slow it down, click the little thing and slow it down to half speed or whatever you want to slow it down to. I'm playing it at 1.5 to get through the stuff. You can still hear it. I just want to comment on kind of what they're saying. If I think it's important to slow it down, then I will. All right, here we go.
I'm going to pause for a second there. And Mr. Washington, we just saw an individual walk through the video carrying a skateboard. Did you?
Okay, so normally Court TV covers this like before, and you can see when they call them and swear them in. For some reason, they have cut that out, and they're just popping in with these guys already on the stand. So I have no idea what happened, what this guy said, why he's here, how he was in it, nothing. So I'm giving you what I'm able to see.
You see that person?
Could you replay it for me?
Yeah, could we rewind about 10 seconds, please? He'll be coming in from the left.
Yeah. Bro. Out here. Yeah, I know, man. How you been, bro? You good out here? That's what's up, man. Yeah.
Okay, so they're trying to point out this guy right here with the skateboard.
No, I'm good. I got some stuff in the back.
There's an individual in the middle of the screen carrying a skateboard with blue jeans and a hoodie and a backpack. Do you see that individual?
Yes.
Do you have any idea who that is?
No.
Okay. I don't think there's going to be an objection. I'm going to represent that that's Anthony Huber.
No objection.
Okay. So just for the jury's edification, that is Anthony Huber. And while we're paused here for a second, Mr. Huber has a skateboard. On that particular night, did you have a skateboard?
Yes.
Do you routinely ride around on a skateboard?
Yes.
Okay, so what the prosecution is doing here is he's trying to make the poor person that swung the skateboard at this guy's head and tried to take his head off with it is just a kid who normally rides a skateboard. He didn't go there to be this mean, violent looter. So now he's trying to make carrying a skateboard a normal thing for the jury so they won't see him as what it was.
So on that night, were you using that as kind of your way to get around the downtown areas you're filming?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you're filming this video, were you holding the skateboard or was it just on the ground?
At this point, I was more than likely holding it.
Okay. Thank you. Please continue.
Yeah, that's expensive.
I'm going to have you pause again because there's an individual, if we could back up about 10 seconds, there's an individual who comes walking into the screen again from the left. He's got shorts on, a t-shirt, a hat, and a backpack. Orange backpack.
Yeah, that's expensive.
There's an individual there on the left-hand side of the screen with a dark shirt, lighter shorts, and an orange backpack, and a hat on. Do you see that individual?
Yes.
Do you know who that is?
No.
Okay. I'll represent with no dispute that is Gage Grosskreutz. Thank you.
It's all good, bro. I needed a meme for my video. I appreciate it. Corey. Corey? Nice to meet you, Robbie.
Thanks for helping me out some sports.
Oh, shit. That was close.
We just heard a couple of loud sounds of some sort, and then you clearly reacted to it. Can you tell the jury what that was, if you know?
I think it was a rocker or something, so there's something.
Okay. It appears you're standing under kind of an awning over the gas pumps, is that right?
Yes.
Were people throwing things that sometimes would land on the roof, make sort of a loud bang noise, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. We also saw some individuals out in the road with a blue umbrella that they were kind of pushing towards the police. Did you see that?
Yes, I saw.
Did you at any point observe any reaction from the police to that?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so far, this guy seems pretty legit to me. He doesn't seem like he's got an agenda, and he's just answering questions. So, I don't know why the prosecution called him, but we'll find out.
Please continue. Can we just, I don't know if we missed anything there. Can we just go back about 10 seconds to make sure? Not that far. That's right there. It's fine. Thank you.
That was close.
I have no idea why they keep playing his tape. Whether he's, I guess we'll find out. It's just... normally when you do something like this for the jury, you want to tell the jury why and what you're showing them so they know what to look for. If he doesn't do that, I'm looking at this video like, why the hell am I watching this shit? Since the prosecution is introducing this tape, I would, as the defense, point out that we were talking about whether this place was dangerous. Why do you think the press felt the need to wear a bulletproof vest if this is such a safe place as the prosecution is kind of saying that this was just, you know, protest, so to speak? Why does the press need bulletproof vests? Why does this guy feel the need to be armed?
Up there. Turn around.
Man, his gas price is pretty low. It must have been when Trump was president. Oh, stop your crying.
Yo, I heard Pizza Hut is on fire on Roosevelt. Yeah, that's people said it a few times in the chat. Yeah, Pizza Hut. People are saying Pizza Hut.
So maybe they have this guy on the stand to authenticate that he videotaped this, and this is how they get the video footage in. I still don't understand why, and that's not good when you're watching something wondering, what am I supposed to be looking for?
Yeah, you too, man. On Roosevelt. So kind of a little ways away. Not a far car drive, but. What's up, Billy? What's happening, bro? The Savage Diary is. Or if they're stealing my stream, tell them that I said it's not okay. I don't know. Tell them to write me a check for my services. And like, I don't know, someone send me a link with their stuff too so I can verify this. All of my content is copyrighted though, so I mean, it would be super frivolous to have to sue somebody for stealing content of an event that they could have just asked me for and I would have. Thank you.
I'm going to represent to the jury that right in the middle of the screen there is Gage Grosskreutz. No dispute about that. That is Gage Grosskreutz there in the middle of the screen. All right, please continue.
I was going to use it, so we are in position now. It looks like that fire might have been put out.
Mr. Washington, you just made a reference to looks like a fire might have been put out. Can you tell us what you were talking about?
Yeah, so earlier in the evening, after everyone was stationed at the Ultimate gas station there at the corner of Sheridan and 60th, randomly there appeared to be a fire just a few, like down the block, headed westward. So I skated down there with a buddy of mine, and there was a few other people that came, I believe, with fire extinguishers. We went to just check it out to see if maybe people were, sneaking off to go burn buildings and were getting away from, the big crowd or whatnot. When we get there, it appeared that, as soon as we got there, maybe moments after we arrived, the police arrived on the scene. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I believe there was like a tire fire set by like the owner of the shop or something there, or something like that. I'm not too sure if that's exactly what it was. That's just what I heard happened. That's what it appeared to be. So,
Your Honor, may I approach and set up the easel? Yes, sir. Thank you. You've got the laser pointer in front of you. Could you, if you can point it out or not, I don't know, but you were describing some sort of fire at some location. Is that location shown on that map? Okay, so you're pointing at a lot that is on 60th Street on the north side, which is at the far left side of that map. And if my my street identification is correct, I think that's 11th Avenue and 60th. Is that right?
You are correct.
Okay, so that would be on the northwest corner of 11th Avenue and 60th. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and is that a some sort of used car lot or something along those lines? Do you know?
Yeah, something of that nature.
Okay, and you said that at one point you observed a fire at that location?
Yes, it was a fairly large fire.
But it appeared to be tires that were on fire.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, and then the police, when you were there on scene, somebody came and was responding to it?
Yeah, there was a fairly large response, I would say. I believe they were in the MRAP or the Bearcat, one of the two, and there was maybe a dozen officers with riot gear and stuff. They kind of pushed us back and told us to go, so we just turned around and went back by the Ultimate gas station.
And when you talk about an MRAP or a Bearcat, you're talking about one of those large armored vehicles that some law enforcement agencies use
Correct.
on this night. Okay, thank you. Can we please continue? Oh, wait, hold on, one more question. You mentioned that you were seeing some things in the comments about things going on in Kenosha. Can you help us explain what you're talking about there?
Yeah, like I mentioned yesterday, I always kind of look at the chat to see if there's other things going on, to see if there's, if there's not a lot going on in an area and there's a bunch of other streamers and I get a tip or something, typically I'd go to another location to see what's going on over there, to see if there's, anything that needs to be covered or whatnot. So
there was some reference you made to a Pizza Hut on Roosevelt that was on fire.
Correct.
Do you know anything more about that?
I believe that was just a false rumor.
Okay. Is it fair to say that on this particular night and in this time period that there were a lot of rumors going around, some true, some not, about what was going on in Kenosha?
Yes, yeah, there's plenty of disinformation going around, especially, on the internet. So.
It'll be the first time that's ever happened, right?
Right.
All right. Please continue. Thank you.
Lots of guns, lots of skateboards, lots of bats. It was a safe area, according to the district attorney. They were just protesting.
There is an individual in the middle of this photograph that is holding a long rifle. He's got a baseball cap on. Do you see that individual?
Yes.
Do you have any idea who that is?
No.
Okay. I'm going to represent, I don't think there'll be any dispute about this, that is an individual by the name of Ryan Balch. Please continue.
There's 514 way down there.
The screen, that is the defendant. Can we play that again?
I don't know.
Can we replay that one more time and try and pause when the defendant's on the screen if possible?
I don't know.
It's hard to catch at the very second, but at any rate, Mr. Washington, we now know, oh, perfect, excellent. We now know that is the defendant, Kyle Rittenhouse, running through the screen carrying a fire extinguisher. You would agree with me on that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's continue the video for a few seconds, and then I'm going to have you pause again, please.
Already trying to, but let's check it out, right?
I believe I just heard you say in the video, Mr. Washington, something to the effect of, I don't know where he's going to, let's check it out, right?
Yes.
Does that sound roughly what you said?
Yes.
Were you referring to the defendant, Kyle Rittenhouse, at that time?
Yes.
Now, at the moment this video was taken, on the night of Tuesday, August 25th, did you have any idea who Kyle Rittenhouse was?
No.
Had you even taken note of him at all that night, up until this point?
Briefly, kind of. I took a mental note. Just so when I arrived on the scene, I kind of looked at the people that were there and kind of, I don't know, just took a note of the people that were around me, especially people that are armed, to kind of gauge the crowd and the environment that I was in. I don't know. He just kind of looked young to me, and he had his gloves on and he was smoking cigarettes and stuff. So I kind of was like, he kind of seemed like an interesting figure. So I just took a mental note of that. It wasn't anything I would say malicious. I just young person in a situation. Honestly, I would say it was mainly the gloves. I didn't know why he had the gloves on. It kind of stood out. So I was like, all right, let me just kind of remember that, I suppose. So when he ran by, I kind of looked to the side to kind of see if there's, I don't know, someone chasing him or what the situation may be. That's why I said, all right, let's see what's happening.
So what was it that drew your attention to him at this point in the video?
There wasn't much happening at the time. It was fairly calm. You see most of the people are kind of just standing around and stuff like that by this point. So to see someone running, I suppose it could have been anyone that ran by me. I would have been intrigued by it, but remembering kind of, in my head. And he had a fire extinguisher as well, so maybe there's a fire or something happening. Maybe he's going to extinguish a fire or something like that. So, again, I wasn't too aware of how close all of these people were that were, I don't know if they were working together. I don't know if everybody, like it was a group of people that were friends, or if it was just miscellaneous people that were working together. So I figured maybe he had some sort of intel or communication with someone or something, and he was going to extinguish a fire, or whatever it may be. So that's why I headed down that way.
Is it fair to say that when we continue the video here, it will show you going the same direction as the defendant?
Yes.
At any point when you were observing the defendant, when he ran past you and whatnot, did you see anyone else with him?
No.
He was alone.
Not that I recall.
Okay.
And so in heading in the direction, it wasn't really to follow the defendant, it was to see what was happening in that direction.
Okay. And just for the, so we can orient everything geographically, could you use your laser pointer and point out the ultimate gas station, please? And we've established that's at the southeast corner of 60th and Sheridan, and that's where you were during the portions of the video we've been watching this morning.
Yes, yeah, probably about.
And then
right
when you
here,
followed
so.
the defendant, what direction did you go from there?
Headed southbound. So this
you
way.
went directly south on Sheridan?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Okay, I'm trying to find it. It's broken up. Well.
There is a figure on the other side of Sheridan Road there, which I believe would be the east side, or yes, the west side of the road. Is that correct?
Yes.
West side of the road. That individual, you would agree with me, is the defendant, correct?
I honestly can't really see from here.
There's going to be no dispute for the jury's purposes that that individual there, shown in the center of the screen on the far side of the road, is the defendant, Kyle
Okay.
Rittenhouse.
All right, I see now. It's kind of mixed in with the trees there.
I'm going to just use my pointer to try and illuminate that on the screen so that everybody can see it clearly. Can you? Sure, why not? I've always wanted to. You know how you approach that TV to do that?
Well, I can't see it then.
Okay, I'll do it. Please.
Well.
No dispute on the case. Okay. I'm going to represent to the jury there's no dispute among the parties. There's an individual, and that is Richie McGinnis. No dispute? No dispute. I'll just use my sister. What's her name? Marcian. Sister Marcian. And again, just so everybody's clear, we are seeing the defendant here. I'm going to point him out again.
I'm assuming he's talking about this person.
Continue for like one more second, please. Keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going. I'll keep going. I'll tell you.
Yeah, they definitely need it.
I'm going to represent to the jury, and there's no dispute from the defense, that there's an individual in the center of the screen. He is not wearing his shirt. He's carrying a bag. He appears to have sort of long blue shorts on. That is Joseph Rosenbaum, and I'll use the pointer to point him out.
That's the pedophile that was saying, "Shoot me, nigga, shoot me." Running around talking shit, and then he got shot.
They're trying to put their garbage out. Oh, he's blocking the road. So now we're about further. A large crowd over there smashing SUVs.
I want to make sure the jury is able to know where we're at on the map here. So, Mr. Washington, you have traveled down, on this video, we see you skateboarding down Sheridan Road south from the Ultimate gas station at 60th and Sheridan. Is that correct?
Correct.
Where we're at in the video now, which is at timestamp 5636, we're seeing some bright lights there on the screen. Do you see those?
Yes.
What is that location?
That's the car source
And where is that located specifically? Do you know?
on Sheridan and what is that, 63rd?
Okay. Could you please use your laser pointer to point out on the map? In that portion of the video, you have skateboarded from the old 3rd and Sheridan on the northwest corner of that intersection. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're all understanding the geography. Please continue. I want to try and point out Mr. Rosenbaum again for the jury. Could you back up a couple seconds, please?
Smashing SUVs.
Keep going just a little bit, please. I'm going to point out for the jury, no dispute on this, great guys. Joseph Rosenbaum is in this picture now, in the video. This is him right here.
Smashing all these cars.
Could we rewind 10 seconds, please? Go ahead.
So if you watched the other footage, when I first saw this, I was like, this yellow building here is probably where the shooting took place, where he got chased across the parking lot, and I think it was the pedophile that threw the bag at him that looks like it's on fire. There's a dispute on whether it was on fire or was reflection. Other people are saying that the bag was filled with a frozen water bottle, and the people out there were using frozen water bottles as throwing objects to break windows and to hit people in the head. So you can tell by the flight of the bag, it was heavy. It didn't have a can of or jar of aspirin in it.
I would like to, just so the jury knows where to be watching here, I'm going to ask the jurors to pay attention to the area in front of car source here, sort of, you'll see some figures running from right to left here on the screen. I just want to direct your attention to it so you know exactly where to look. Go ahead.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to represent to the jury. I don't think there's any dispute about this. We have just heard the shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum, and we'll go back and go over that in just a second. But Mr. Washington,
There was a first shot, which was not Mr. Rittenhouse's shot.
we'll get to that. Let me finish and I'll go back. Mr. Washington, after you heard the gunshots, what did you do personally?
I skated away to find safety.
Okay. And then eventually returned to kind of check things out afterwards. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of found like a position behind a retaining wall and tried to kind of film from behind the retaining wall.
Okay, fair enough. Can we rewind about 10 seconds, please? Let's go back 10 more just to make sure. Okay, thank you. Can we play that again, please? There's no dispute. We're all on the same page here. I'm going to let the jury know that the gunshot you just heard was fired by a man by the name of Joshua Zeminski, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot more about him later. Let's keep playing.
That's good that he cleared that up, because earlier he made it like Kyle was just shooting everybody. But he cleared that up because of the objection from the defense.
I'll represent to the jury again without dispute that the 4 shots that were just heard are the 4 shots that the defendant, Kyle Rittenhouse, fired at Joseph Rosenbaum. There were several other shots that were just heard then, at least 3, maybe more. Those were not fired by the defendant, Kyle Rittenhouse. Please.
So we have multiple people shooting. He's shooting to defend himself because he's getting attacked. But he was wrong. I mean, this is just such a horrible prosecution.
Continue.
Oh, shit. We got shots fired, guys. We got shots fired. I don't know if it was
I'm going to stop the video there. Mr. Washington, you've already explained what you did afterwards. I just have one final question for you. When you arrived at the...
I almost guarantee you this will not be the final question. They always say this, but we'll see.
63rd Street car source, and we've seen the video that you recorded. This was a video that you recorded with your phone, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, in addition to that, you're using your own eyes to look at what's going on.
Yes.
What I want to ask you is, did you see any fires at the 63rd Street car source when you were there personally?
Fires?
Yes.
No.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Holy cow.
I guess for the
All
record,
right.
just to button this all up, I believe that was... That was... Yep.
Objection? No. Received.
Oh, so we're having a different attorney cross him.
So can I ask you, Mr. Washington, on the night of the 25th, when this all happened, the video that you just showed us, did you receive a
He probably should have said his name so the court reporter would know, but she probably knows him and just added it in.
curfew ticket?
No.
No? Okay. Were you aware there was a curfew in place?
Yes.
Okay. And you agree you were out past curfew, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had described yourself as a social media influencer, is that right?
And I mean, that's the fairest way to describe what I do, I suppose. Yes.
Okay. Do you travel around to video things like you videoed in Kenosha? Like, have you been to Portland and other places like that?
No, I've been to places in Wisconsin like Oshkosh and things like this, but I don't necessarily only film like political situations and stuff. I mean, I kind of document all different types of things. Like I was just at a Comic-Con and stuff like that. So.
And so I just want to make sure I have this right. So on the 23rd, I think you said you were taking a day off.
Yeah, it was Sunday, you know. I was just trying to relax.
And you get a call or a notification that things are going on downtown.
Not downtown. That the shooting of Jacob Blake took place.
Okay. And at some point then, on the evening of the 23rd, you come down like to the courthouse area?
Yes, after, like I described, following the protesters down to the downtown location, yes, area of the courthouse in the public safety building.
And you had, I'm going to show you a couple photographs. You can tell me if you recognize what was going on.
Okay.
Defense Exhibit 31 and 32. Okay.
All right. Oh, since paper.
We got to start with paper.
All right.
Can you just take a look at those and tell me if you recognize?
Yeah, this is a burning garbage truck. These are the old garbage trucks. Those that live in Kenosha, most people are from Kenosha that are here. We got new garbage trucks and things of that nature. We got new receptacles and pretty fancy or whatever. So they use the old trucks to kind of make blockades around the courthouse. And so that's what D32. D31 here is a photo of, it looks like a waste truck or something on fire.
And you had mentioned, I think, on your direct that you had observed vehicles like that burning on, was it the 23rd?
Yes.
Okay.
What you like here?
Because I don't have, our electronics isn't working properly, so I would move these two exhibits, and then if I could just, I'm going to have to show them to theory with the court's permission.
Is there objection?
What night were these dates? The 23rd.
Sunday night?
Yes.
Okay.
So did you want me just to hand it to him, or just?
One at a time, so you get it, you don't have to look at both of them, just pass one on and look at the next. Yeah, and then you can put, yeah.
Kind of congregation of people out front of the courthouse and by the dinosaur museum.
Yes.
And there was people talking about damaging. Put them up, that'd be great. People were talking about damaging the dinosaur museum, and that kind of was a place that was close to your heart.
Yeah, I mean, a place that I would say it's more of a staple in the community more than a place in my heart. It's not like I frequently visit the dinosaur museum. I just recognize the importance of it.
Okay, and if you can just take a peek at the screen, those are the pictures that I had, 31 and 32 that I had showed you. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, tell me if this is right. You had said
That looks like a fire truck. The big red truck got burned up.
that on the night of the 23rd, there started to be people that you saw downtown that you didn't really recognize.
Yes.
So you had, it sounds like you have some influence in the community and you're known in the community, so there were people that you were starting to think were from out of town?
Yes, or at least people that were very suspicious looking.
Can you tell me why they were suspicious looking?
Attire, mainly, kind of with their attire and actions, I suppose. But I mentioned, I believe yesterday, seeing someone that was in the back of I believe it may have even been the truck that you showed, in the back of the truck, finding debris. I believe in the video, I may even have video, maybe you have the video of me asking the person what they're doing, why they're in the back of the truck. They said they're trying to find stuff to break stuff or whatever. So that was kind of one of the first moments, I suppose, where like a major red flag, besides, all the fires that went off.
Would it be fair to say that what we're seeing on the screen there, that's a red flag to you?
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a burning garbage truck.
Okay, fair enough.
See, I like this guy because he's just like, he doesn't appear to have an agenda. He's just like, hey, man, I video on part of the community, ask your questions.
So that's the 23rd. On the 24th, I think you said the 24th is worse than the 23rd. Is that right, in terms of damage to buildings and property?
I believe so. Again, I'm trying to be as transparent and fair to myself, I suppose. There was a lot that went on within like that week or two. I didn't get much sleep, and I'm trying to remember the best of my knowledge, but I haven't reviewed the video to study the video. So the best of my knowledge, yes.
Were there people, if you remember, on the 23rd, were there people out protecting the businesses, or was it kind of a free-for-all?
So there weren't people that you could, I suppose, identify that were protecting businesses. Possibly. I imagine there were, once people noticed what was going on, but not that I could say that I verified them.
All right, so I'll ask it to you this way. Did you see a lot of people on the 23rd out protecting businesses?
No.
Were there, so then the 24th comes, and you had described the 24th at night becoming opportunistic. Is that fair?
That's what it seemed like.
Okay. And so one of the things that you had mentioned that had happened was you witnessed the Department of Corrections Probation and Parole Office being burned. If I can show you, is that?
Okay, this is good because they're showing, the prosecution's trying to paint.
Is that the Department of Corrections Probation Parole?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's what it says on the building, right?
Right. I'm not trying to trick you, sir. I just
Okay.
Okay. And if you,
So this is good because the jury will see that when the prosecution says, well, they were just out protesting and, he shot people and this is setting up that what reasonable person wouldn't fear for their safety in the middle of this chaos and violence?
now that building, if you know, burns to the ground,
Yeah.
correct? And did you see the car source? I think you mentioned that car source business, you noticed it that night as well burning.
Yes, I believe I think there's they have two locations, right? So there's a location closer to the Civic Center Park, and
Wonder how many Black Lives Matter got prosecuted for burning up the city and burning up trucks and fire trucks, and how many millions was spent on that, and we're trying to prosecute and take away a kid's life who was out there painting over graffiti, trying to help his community, giving out free aid. I mean, what a travesty of justice this trial is.
and then there's one that's further south. I believe both of them are called the car source.
Okay, I'm going to show you Exhibit 34 for a minute.
Okay.
Do you recognize that picture, sir?
Yes.
And if I said that's a picture of fires at the car source, would that be fair to you?
Yes.
Okay, so Judge, I would move 34.
Any objection?
When was this?
That's the 24th, correct?
Is there objection?
I just want to clarify what the timing of the event was.
Well, the car source burned on the 24th. The majority of the fires on the car source were the 24th, yes?
If this was on the 24th, then yes. If that's when the timestamp from the video is from, I won't dispute that.
Did you see any fires at the car source on the 25th? Which was the
Tuesday?
yeah, the day Mr. Banger asked you if you saw any fires down there. That was his last question, and you said no, right?
You're talking about on Tuesday, the night of the shooting. Did I see any fires?
At car source?
No.
Okay. So if I told you that was the car source on the 24th, would you have any reason to dispute that?
No.
Okay. So I would move to 34, Judge.
Any objection?
No.
Proceed.
No, I didn't think you guys.
So I think, I'm not sure, he didn't make it clear. I think he's saying you testified there was no fires, but I just showed you pictures of fires when you said there were no fire. I think that's what he cleared. See, he should have cleared that up for the jury, because I'm sitting here, I mean, I've been in courtrooms and I understand it, and if I get confused, then these attorneys aren't made clear. You have to talk to the jury like, I mean, not to be mean, but like they're stupid, like they're 5-year-olds. I want to make it clear he should have followed up. So to get this straight, you testified earlier that there was no fires on this date, and now you're telling me that this picture happened on that date. Would you change your testimony or stand by your testimony? That would have drove it home and made it clear for the jury. I kind of missed the point on this. So it isn't as good as he thinks it is. See, lawyers sometimes think, I got you, and they make a good point. But if the jury misses it, it wasn't a good point.
Is that the car source that we're talking about?
So that is the Stella. Yeah, so yeah, that's the one across from Ruther.
Okay. So my question to you is this. On the 24th, did you notice more or less people protecting their businesses than the 23rd? Or the same?
I would more, possibly. Just because people had a general idea of what was going on.
Okay. Were there more businesses boarded up?
On the
24th?
I mean, there were no businesses boarded up on the 23rd. So if there were any businesses boarded up on the 24th, then yes, even if it was one, I imagine.
So 24th, you believe there were more people that were out protecting their property? That you noticed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Were there more people out on the 25th, the night of the shooting, than the 24th?
Protecting their businesses? Or just in general?
More people out protecting businesses on the 25th.
Yes. There was visibly more people.
All right, and tell me if this is right. On the 25th, more people out protecting businesses, less fires. Agreed? On the 25th.
Yes, if that's the only comparison that we're going to make, yes.
Well, on the 24th, there were more fires
Yeah, right.
and some people out, right?
Right.
And then on the next day, the 25th, you said visibly more people out protecting property and far less fires.
Yes, there was also less people as well, though.
On the 25th.
Yes.
Okay. And so you mentioned that Monday, the 24th, starts out peacefully in the day, and then it becomes opportunistic in all the property damage on the 24th, the night of the 24th.
Right, there was organized protests and things during the day. Anything that happened after nightfall was not an organized situation.
Did it appear to you that people were out there having opportunities to just damage property if they could on the 24th?
Yeah, after nightfall, yes.
And so can I ask you, on the 25th, you're back out and you're videotaping or running your live stream once again. And can you bring up the video that Mr. Binger showed? In 1822. Would you say there were visibly more people there to protect that business than the previous 2 days?
Down at the car source?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's shaking his head no, and he's saying yes, which means he's not real sure. The prosecution should probably pick up on that and re-ask that question, because he's kind of like, he's just being he's trying to be polite and not argumentative and just kind of agreeing. So I don't know if the jury will catch that. I caught it, but you ought to, the attorney asking the questions ought to catch it and make sure. I want to clear this up.
And
it may have been the owners or something, I'm not sure.
Just there were more people protecting their businesses, and I understand
I get the point he's trying to make. He's trying to drive home. That's why Kyle went out there, because they knew it was dangerous, and more people came out to protect their property because of the dangerous, violent looting. It wasn't just a protest night like the prosecution said.
You're saying less people were out, but substantially less property damage as it relates to fires that night.
Yes.
I'm at 36 minutes. I'm going to let this play out, so this one may be long instead of making this a two-parter.
So if I could just have you watch this for a second. This is the video, this is your live stream that Attorney Binger had you comment on, okay?
Okay.
So there's, if I can ask you this, so you notice right here that there's a fire that has been started, or is going, correct?
Yes, I see that, yes.
See that? Okay. And can you just run it?
It's right downstairs. Oh, yeah, that dumpster is about to be lit up.
Stop it. And it appears that people are going over there to put out maybe the fire that's going to be started in the dumpster?
Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth, I would say, where there was like things would happen, then they would get quashed, and then things would happen, and then people would come, and then they would resolve the issue. Yeah.
Were there more on the 25th? Were there more people actively, in your opinion, actively trying to put out or quell the fires once they started?
Yes. Yeah, that's why there's people with fire extinguishers and stuff.
Did you see people with fire extinguishers on the 24th, do you remember?
Possibly, but
Certainly
probably not.
Okay, so probably not on the 24th, but certainly multiple people had fire extinguishers on the 25th.
Yes.
Okay. So we can just play it. So people at that point are putting out dumpster fires.
Yes, that's what it appears to be.
Were people getting angry when the fires were being put out? Were they voicing objections?
So, there was, I would say yes, but there was pretty much objections to everything that everyone disagreed on. That's why I believe at one point in the video you hear me say people just need to agree to disagree on all this stuff, because it's just going to continue to be back and forth.
Okay, but to be fair, if we can be, one of the things that made people angry that night were when fires were put out or quelled, right?
Possibly, yes, maybe. It's hard for me. You want me to explain for other people in a way, and I can't necessarily.
This guy's a good little witness. He does the defense doesn't even, or the prosecution doesn't even need to object. He's kind of doing the objection with his answer, saying you're trying to get me to speculate. This means no difference that the defense just jumped up, or the prosecution jumped up and goes, "Objection, Your Honor." He's called him for a conclusion of what the other people were thinking.
Necessarily do that, but I imagine that's what would make people upset.
Just in terms of what you saw and heard, though, some of the reactions were, there were things like people said, "Why'd you do that? Why'd you put that out?" Right? You heard that.
I mean, if it's played in the video, then I can hear it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You played it.
Yeah, like that guy said, "Why'd you do that?" Right there. Yeah. But the context of it, again, to be fair to everyone, I don't know the context in which he said that, but he did say that. Yes. Whoever it was.
I would have probably said, were you upset that they were burning things? Yes. Were you happy that they were putting them out? Yes. Do you think the people that started it, were they happy they were putting it out? And he would probably say no, and you would get the answer in. Sometimes you have to walk a witness to the answer you want, because I think the guy probably agrees with him, but he's just not getting the point out.
Back it up. So that gentleman right there, we agree, is Joseph Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Did you see him becoming angry at that point, moving toward the other people at the ultimate gas station?
So to be fair, at that point, I wasn't focused on him, to be honest, but to be transparent, everything that I've ever seen of him that was kind of circulated on the internet, he seemed upset. So I'm not going to dispute that, but that's, again, outside influence of my knowledge of him, but it seems like it.
Can I ask you this, did you, at this gas station, did you hear him scream, shoot me, shoot me?
I've seen a video of him saying, shoot me, saying,
The N-word?
yeah.
Were you there at the time that he said that?
Maybe, probably, I'm not sure. Do you have video of me being there? Because I don't recall, but I definitely saw a video of it. I'm not sure if it was mine or someone else's, but I've seen that.
Okay.
This guy gets more and more credibility by the way he's not trying to. He's just like, he's just comes off very honest and kind of like no agenda. His testimony so far over the other guy has much more credibility to me. Maybe to the jury, maybe not.
Now, you had mentioned that you didn't believe that the dumpsters were being pushed toward the gas station. Is that right?
Yeah, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but to me, I felt like they were trying to push them towards the police. That's what I kind of felt, and that's what it appeared to be to me. What that would do, I'm
Fair to say, though, that there are dumpsters being pushed. At least one of them is pushed to kind of like where the driveway of the gas station is, right?
Yeah, they got them from like the gas station parking lot.
And it's reasonable. Let me ask you this: do you think it's reasonable that people put out fires that are near gas stations?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay. And you had mentioned, or I'll ask you.
Have you finished your answer?
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Okay, that's fine. Now, Mr. Binger had asked you at this location.
That was good that he paused, because when he shook his head, the jury saw that, and the jury might have confused that he wanted to change his answer, and this attorney bullied him. So this goes into, you don't want to come off the jury like you're intimidating a witness, which is why the prosecution, when they had their witness that they were holding a trial over his head, didn't we tell you to tell the truth? Yes. Okay, perfect.
Did you see anybody fire a gun? Did you hear anybody fire a gun at anybody? Do you remember that yesterday?
Right, during this scenario, like by the ultimate gas station? No, I don't recall hearing.
Did you see anyone, to be fair, at that gas station chase anybody else trying to attack them? Did you see that?
No, not that I recall.
Did you see anybody on the ground, another person trying to kick him in the face? Did you see that?
Did I see another person try to kick someone in the face?
Yeah.
No. By the ultimate gas station, no.
Right. Did you see anybody hit somebody in the face or the neck area with a skateboard at that location?
At the location by the ultimate gas station, no.
Okay, so what he's doing now is he's trying to say, you testified and gave this impression of the scene, but you aren't seeing it from the eyes of my client when he was defending his life. And this is good to keep repeating this mantra in front of the jury so they start thinking, yeah, all this other stuff isn't like the guy getting his face kicked in with a skateboard.
Anybody chasing anybody, pointing a gun at him? Did you see any of that at the ultimate gas station?
At the ultimate gas station, no.
Okay. And you had mentioned that people were throwing rocks, right?
Yeah, you can hear throughout the video. Throughout the entire, I'd say, several days of things that were going on, there was like the sound of rocks and things being thrown. Kind of like quiet noise or whatever.
This is a great point to go. So you would say this was probably a pretty violent and destructive area. People had it's reasonable to be concerned for your safety. You were probably concerned for your safety, right? You ran when you heard shots earlier in your video. This whole environment was a chaotic, dangerous, violent situation. I would be wanting to get that out in front of the jury more and more to set the mindset and mind frame of my client when he had to use deadly force.
Do you know, now rocks can have different sizes and connotations and things like that.
Cool, yes.
Have you seen, they were actually taking chunks of concrete and breaking them on the ground and picking up chunks of concrete and throwing them?
Yes, I've seen that, yes.
Okay, so it was, and I'm not saying that you misrepresented anything, there's a difference between maybe a small rock and a chunk of concrete, is that fair?
Yeah, you can hear throughout the video that there's a difference. You can tell by, the velocity of, or the sound of the banging, that it's a different size material that's being thrown.
Can you go to 24 minutes? So if I could just have you watch this, we're gonna go to 24 minutes on the tape. You recognize that person right there?
Yeah, that's the defendant, correct?
Rittenhouse.
Agreed? Yes.
Okay. Does he, during this time that you saw him,
So earlier they said he had gloves on. He said he had gloves on and that caught my eye. Remember his testimony earlier? I would probably try to get in there. You notice he's wearing gloves. And you said earlier that kind of struck you as odd. You know he has a medical kit and that he's giving aid to people who are bleeding. Knowing now, is it reasonable that he had gloves on? Because I think the prosecution kind of got him to say that when he ran by with guns and a glove and a fire extinguisher, it was some sort of nefarious action. And even I thought, I wonder why he was wearing gloves. I hope he didn't have black gloves with plastic knuckles. Now I see the gloves. They're medical protective latex gloves because he's treating people for injuries. I'd want to tie that in and clear that up.
does he appear to be agitated or irritated in any way to you?
Right there, it looks like he's just kind of standing, looking around.
Okay. If he would have been agitated or irritated or threatening in any way, would you have kind of followed him around probably or no? With the camera to see what he was doing?
Like if he was threatening.
Yeah,
I
if he
mean,
was acting, I'll ask you this way. If he was acting inappropriate, would you have videotaped him?
if he was engaging with someone in an inappropriate way and it was in my radius and I caught it, then I would move to that direction. Yeah.
So is it fair to say there's nothing about his behavior at the Ultimate gas station that made you focus on him at all?
At this point, I'm just kind of standing around seeing what's going on because there's not much happening. So yeah, there's no.
So just play it, please. So he's just walking around like everybody else.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. You were asked how you got around that night, and you had mentioned that you had gotten around that night on a skateboard.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the trucks of a skateboard are?
Yes.
What are they?
They're what you attach the wheels of your skateboard to that attaches them to the board itself.
Okay. So can I ask you this? If you were going to swing that skateboard in an effort to create some velocity and hurt someone, how would you swing it?
If I was going to swing my skateboard to hurt someone, I mean, I suppose it depends on the situation. It's a plank of wood pretty much, so however you favor holding a plank of wood.
Could you grab it? Could you grab it by the trucks and swing it?
You could, you could hold it, and you could grab it by anything, really. Anything that's on it, you could hold it by. So yes.
But the trucks would let you swing it one-handed, right?
I mean, yes, I suppose, but again, you could hold just the board itself with one hand.
Okay, so what he's trying to get here across the jury is when this guy swung the board, he held it in a way to where he could get his hand around it and grip it. When you grip a flat board, it's easy to slide it out between your fingers. But when you can get your fingers wrapped around and grip the wheel and the truss or whatever he's calling the metal piece where the wheels are at, it gives you more grip. Therefore, you can swing it faster. He's not making it real clear. And this guy wasn't using his board, so he's not thinking that way. So he's not making a very good point. But that's where I know that's where he's trying to get across to the jury. He's just not doing it well.
Depending on the size of your hands. Again, I have fairly large hands. I hold my board with one hand, all different types of ways. But if you have smaller hands, that would probably be the way that you would want to hold it. If you were trying to strike someone, I suppose. I'm not an expert at striking people with my skateboard.
I like this guy, man. He seems like a good dude.
I just ride it like what it's meant for. So
I'm just asking your opinion on it, that's all.
Okay.
Now, can you go to 5547? Mr. Binger showed you. That's fine. Just leave it there. So, 7. Professor Flynn. Wait, please. So that's Mr. Rittenhouse walking right there, right?
mhm. Yes, yeah.
So he's not, in your opinion on this, he's not chasing anyone, is he?
No, it looks like he's headed in a direction.
Okay, and is it fair to say that when you observed him, he's walking like you or I would just be walking if we were going somewhere?
That's what it appears to be.
Okay, so in your opinion, again, he doesn't appear to be hurried or he doesn't appear to be going after someone, correct?
At this moment, it doesn't appear to be that he's rushing any longer, no.
Okay. Can you play it, please? And he's got the fire extinguisher in his hand. Can you see that?
It looked like he was still holding whatever he was holding, and he was holding a fire extinguisher before, so I imagine he did not swap it out for something else.
Okay. Can you just keep playing it?
It's almost like this guy has been coached that don't make assumptions, don't agree to things you don't know, be careful about, they'll try and trick you up and get you to say things. If you don't know, make sure you say, I don't know, and make them clarify. It sounds like he was briefed pretty well about not being a bad witness, and he's doing a good job.
Now, were those people right there started? Was there a fire going right there?
I'm not sure. Can you replay it? Yeah, it looks like there's a little garbage fire there, yes.
Okay. So now, Mr. Rosenbaum, we agree that's Mr. Rosenbaum. Here. So now, Mr. Rosenbaum, here, can you see? I don't know if you saw, if you remember when I asked you about at the ultimate gas station. He no longer has a shirt on, correct?
That's what it looks like.
Okay. Does it appear to you, and it wasn't asked by Mr. Baker, but that his shirt's wrapped around his face now, or around his head? Does that appear to be?
It could be around his head or around his like neck area or something like that.
Okay, you can't see that person's face. Is that fair?
Not really. No. Yeah, that's fair.
You would think if you were going to make that point and use that in the trial and ask that video, you would have already blown up this camera on a big screen TV, played the video, and took a still shot of his face covered up, and then introduced that as evidence saying, here is a blow up of his head. Would you say it's covered? But when you ask a guy to confirm something and he can't, it's not only boring to the jury, it's kind of like, what was the purpose of that? Why are you wasting our time? I can't even tell. So if you can't prove it, then don't ask it. Not necessarily prove it, at least demonstrate it.
So the last part of this I want to show you, Mr. Washington, is the actual incident, okay, that you captured.
Okay.
The shoot. I want you to listen. Did you heard a shot, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And then do you hear somebody yell, fuck you?
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Then, and do you know who said that?
No.
Okay.
It sounds like a male.
Okay, the male voice yells that.
Yeah.
You hear that. And we've established that Mr. Zeminski was the one who, you know who that is, who fired the first shot?
I heard about that. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be able to point him out, but I heard about that happening. Yeah.
Okay.
That would have been a good point to give a nice picture of that guy shooting the gun, because I think he's on camera. And you could blow that up and do a still shot. They may be able to clear that up later, but hopefully you modify during the trial. When you're sitting in a trial like this and you're going through the trial, at the end of the day, the DA, if I was the investigator, I'd be sitting, if this was, there's probably a cop sitting next to this guy. At the end of the day, the prosecution, the investigator, everybody will sit down and go, okay, what do we do? Where are we short? What do we need to do tomorrow? What's on the plan tomorrow? Do we need to clean up something we didn't do today? And you would talk about that. And if I was there, I'd be like, hey, we need to get some blow up shots, because he asked him if his face was covered. If that was important in our case, we want to be able to show it was covered. And if we ask if he saw the guy shooting, we want to have a good blow up picture of that. And probably the DA would be like, that's a good idea, Gore. Take care of that, man. Give me a couple blow-ups. And he may or might not use them, but as the investigator, I would go make that happen. And then in the morning before trial or that night, I would get him to him, say, here's this, blah, blah, blah. And then he would decide if he wanted to use it or if he saw a point to throw it in. He may not use it. I mean, there's plenty of things that, I've given DAs and they haven't used. There's plenty of things that they said I should have done and I didn't too.
So can I just ask you this? And I don't know, you said that you kind of at least took mental note of
yes.
Mr. Rittenhouse, maybe because of his age, because of the gloves, things like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I took a mental note of some of people that kind of stood out to me, in my opinion. There's a lot of chatter on the internet and stuff like that. People are saying that people are going to randomly kill people. Mainly they said they were going to be targeting black people or something like that, which is, you can all see I'm a black man. So I took a note of that. So I was wanted to know who was around. I didn't necessarily feel like that was true, but you never know what may happen in situations that, clearly, who thought buildings would be set on fire and all of that. So you never know what really might happen. So I took a mental note of people that kind of stood out, people that were acting erratic, I suppose Mr. Rosenbaum, or the little things that stood out,
Oh, that's huge. I'd go back to that. So you would agree that Mr. Rosenbaum was acting erratic? Yes, that was your term, right? Would you say he was acting dangerous? Would you say he was acting out of control? Would you say he's acting in a way to excite violence? Man, I'd be all over that.
Chain smoking with gloves on and stuff, you know.
Okay. So can I ask you this? You described, if I have it right, you described Rosenbaum as acting erratic, right?
You go, boy! He's on my team.
From all of the moments that I was around that you can notice, yes.
Okay. Other than smoking with gloves on, anything that Kyle Rittenhouse did that you noticed that was in any way erratic, threatening, use any term you want.
Oh, I wouldn't ask it that way. See, by asking it that way, he will say, maybe, no, you left him too many answers that you don't want. He should have pinned him down and said, you used the term, he was acting erratic. Explain to me what you mean by erratic and let the guy give the word. He gave all these words and now he may not get the answer he wants.
Use any term that you want to describe anything that was out of the ordinary about his behavior.
The only thing I could say that was, I don't, and maybe it's, to be fair, like, this is just, I suppose, my opinion. He just seemed like he was young and like he didn't know exactly like what was going on. And because he was smoking so much and he, again, if he didn't have the gloves on, maybe I wouldn't have noticed as much, but I just don't know why, like in the situation, why you would have gloves on. Maybe there's some technical reason or something that you may know, but to me, that's just what stood out to me.
Okay.
Not saying that I felt like, oh, this is a guy that's going to go around and mow a bunch of people down or anything like that. I just was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me take a note of that. And
But you said that he was acting erratic. What did you mean? Pin him down on a word that he used.
when he ran by, I was like, oh, I went in my Rolodex in my head, like, oh, I remember this guy from before. Is there anyone chasing him or anything? No, maybe there's something happening down that way. So I just headed in that direction, not necessarily focusing on him per se, but focusing on possibly there's a situation in that direction.
So I don't know if you've answered the question, but the question was about his behavior in terms of what he did. He didn't act erratic.
I mean, chain smoking cigarettes is kind of a behavioral thing.
Okay.
So it's not like you don't necessarily have to engage with people to have mannerisms and things like that.
So the thing that stuck out to you, you described Rosenbaum as erratic, and if this is fair, and Rittenhouse as chain smoking. Yes?
I suppose you could say nervous, I guess, would be a fairer way to say it. He seemed nervous in the situation.
There were people bidding burn, and there were shots fired, and there were fire trucks burning. Is nervousness reasonable? Were you nervous? You said you were looking around because you heard them say they were going to shoot black people. Were you nervous? Is it reasonable that if he's nervous, he smokes? I mean, he could have cleaned that up, and he didn't.
But I mean, I suppose a lot of people were nervous. Again, it's not.
There's no question on the table. Don't let witnesses start taking over and interjecting shit on and on and on. Say, hang on a second. You got to wait for me to ask a question. You can do it nicely, but don't let them do that.
A slight at him. It was just a mental note that I took.
Okay, thank you. Sir, any other questions for you? Thank you.
No, bad way to end. Maybe this guy's going to tell him. Wait a minute.
Let's,
I have one more question, Judge. Sorry.
okay, go ahead.
Oh, I may have one more question. That means I want to tell you something or clear something good. You never want to end a witness in front of the jury to where he doesn't help you. He got the last bite at the apple. He got the first. You want his witness to help you. And he did when he said Rosenbaum was acting erratic. I want to phrase that and get that as the last thing he says on the stand to me. Not that I don't remember and he was chain smoking, I'm not and you let him rattle on all this BS. That was a poor cross at the end. This guy might not be on my team anymore. I might have just kicked his ass off. Christ, man, she's a linebacker.
So I'm going to ask you, I think, one more question. If I could. Okay. You had said, Mr. Binger had asked you if you noticed any fires at the car source at 63rd and Sheridan that evening.
Yes, and I believe I said no, or I don't recall.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm going to show you this, and you can tell me if you recall this.
No, I do notice there was damage happening,
I didn't
like
ask you a
people
question.
smashing cars.
Hold on, okay? Do you remember, now that's car source, right? You remember that?
Yes, that's car source.
You agree that's a fire inside that truck?
Yeah, that's what that looks like, yeah.
So there were fires at car source that night, right?
If this is that night and that's what's happening, then yes, that's what just happened, yes.
All right, very good.
Is this, I don't get to pose the question, but I was just wondering if this is like right before the shooting happened?
You're right. You don't get to pose a question. See, he just averted his good answer that he said You said there were no fires, but yet there was fires, correct? And I would have even drove it home more and said, would you stick by your testimony that you told the prosecution that there was no fires? Would you stick by that, or after seeing this film and I tell you it's there, would you change that? I would have drove that. Now he's letting the witness freaking distract the jury from remembering this I got you moment.
We'll, he asked questions and you can answer them. And so, but would that change your answer?
The only reason I ask is because if this is right before the shooting, after I ran as soon as the shooting took place, so I wasn't like zeroed in on what was happening there because there was just a shooting that happened and I was running for my safety. So.
All right, we're going to take a break this time. Please don't talk about the case during the break. Again, standard rules about.
Alrighty. Well, and that there went long on this 1 hour, but this witness is over. I don't think they're going to recross. The prosecution may bring him back. Remember, if the prosecution brings him back, then they get another bite at him. But they can only get a second bite on what the prosecution brings up the second time. So they got to address everything the prosecution did. This is their bite at the apple. If the prosecution says, I have a couple things I want to clear up, then they get a second bite at those objects that they brought up the second time. They can't start addressing stuff now because they've already had their bite of the apple. So that's why you want to make sure and get all your stuff out. All right, we'll end that there.